At 3:47 a.m. on November 15th, 2021, a 911 call shattered the silence in Millbrook, Kentucky. The caller was hysterical, barely coherent. "He's not breathing. Please, he's not breathing. There's papers everywhere. Oh God, what did they do to him?" The man found dead that morning had been worth $120 million. 18 months earlier, he couldn't afford to fix his truck. Tonight, we investigate what happens when a secret fortune becomes a death sentence. This is the story of Jake Patterson and the inheritance that killed him. Some secrets are buried for a reason. Some fortunes come with a price that can never be paid. And sometimes the American dream becomes the American nightmare. What you're about to see will change how you think about wealth, power, and the hidden costs of getting everything you ever wanted. Before we begin this investigation, I need you to understand something. The story you're about to hear took 6 months to piece together. We interviewed 47 people. We uncovered documents that powerful people didn't want found. And we discovered a truth so shocking that even we questioned whether it should be told. But then we thought about Tommy Patterson, 14 years old now, living with the weight of questions no child should have to carry. If we don't tell his father's story, who will? If we don't seek justice for the innocent, who will? That's why we do this work. That's why we dig deeper when others look away. Every story matters. Every truth deserves to be told. Every voice deserves to be heard. If you believe in that mission, if you want to be part of preserving these stories that matter, please subscribe to our channel right now, because what we're about to reveal will stay with you long after this video ends. And it starts with a boy playing with a toy truck in a basement. August 12, 2019. 8-year-old Tommy Patterson is playing in the root cellar of his great-great-uncle's farmhouse. His toy truck, a $3 plastic vehicle from the dollar store, gets stuck behind a loose stone. His father, Jake, is upstairs trying to figure out how to afford basic repairs on a house that's falling apart around them. Jake Patterson is 34 years old, a single father working 2 jobs, and he's just inherited what everyone in Millbrook, Kentucky, calls the biggest pile of junk in 3 counties. Tommy calls for his dad. The stone won't budge. Jake comes down with a crowbar, thinking he's dealing with another costly repair. Instead, he pries loose a stone that's been sealed for 30 years. Behind that stone is a metal box. Inside that box are documents that will change everything they think they know about Raymond Patterson, and everything they think they know about their own lives. The first document Jake pulls out is a bank statement. Swiss account. Balance, $47 million. The second document is a real estate portfolio. Properties across 4 states. Total value, $38 million. The third document is a stock portfolio that's been growing untouched for 3 decades. Jake Patterson, the man who's been eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner so his son can have real meals, is looking at assets worth over $120 million. But here's what Jake doesn't know yet. Here's what no one in Millbrook knows. Raymond Patterson wasn't just a wealthy recluse. He was a man running from something. And that something is about to catch up with Jake and Tommy. Let me take you back to understand how Jake ended up in this situation. His wife Elena had died in a car accident when Tommy was just 3 years old. The medical bills, the funeral costs, the weight of single parenthood had all taken their toll. Jake worked morning shifts at Henderson's Auto Parts and evening cleaning at the local elementary school, just to keep their heads above water. The community of Millbrook had watched Jake struggle for years. When Raymond Patterson died at 87, leaving behind what locals called the eyesore property, the jokes at Murphy's Diner wrote themselves. "Jake got lucky," they'd say with bitter sarcasm. "Now he's got 2 places he can't afford to live." The house was a disaster. Peeling paint, sagging roof, windows that had been boarded up for years. The land was choked with weeds, rusted farm equipment, scattered like grave markers across the property. But Jake saw something else. He saw possibility. He saw a chance to give Tommy the childhood he'd never had. Now, holding these documents in his hands, Jake realizes that Raymond Patterson had been playing a very different game than anyone imagined. But understanding the rules of that game would cost Jake everything. Within 6 weeks, Jake Patterson's life is unrecognizable. The farmhouse gets a complete renovation. Tommy enrolls in private school. Jake establishes a charitable foundation that transforms Millbrook. But our investigation revealed something else was happening during this period. Something that would explain why this story doesn't have a happy ending. Federal agents have been building a case against Raymond Patterson for years. Environmental crimes, illegal mining operations, financial fraud spanning multiple states. Raymond's death in 2019 had temporarily halted their investigation. Jake's sudden wealth triggered new scrutiny, and that scrutiny revealed something terrifying. Raymond Patterson hadn't just been hiding money. He'd been hiding evidence that could destroy some of the most powerful people in Kentucky. While Jake was renovating his farmhouse, while Tommy was learning to ride horses, while the town of Millbrook was celebrating their good fortune, powerful people were making phone calls. Decisions were being made. Plans were being put in motion. Jake Patterson had become a problem that needed to be solved. Let me paint you a picture of what Jake's life looked like during these 18 months. He hadn't forgotten where he came from. He hired many of the same people who had once mocked him. He quietly paid off medical debts for families in crisis. He became the town's unofficial guardian angel. Tommy blossomed. The shy, withdrawn boy who had lived in his father's shadow began to flourish. Baseball leagues, art classes, summer camps. All the experiences that had been impossible before became reality. Jake thought he was living the American dream. He had no idea he was actually living a nightmare that just hadn't revealed itself yet. Our investigation uncovered Raymond Patterson's true business dealings. He wasn't just a silent partner in 3 major Kentucky coal operations. He was involved in systematic environmental violations, worker exploitation, and safety cover-ups that had cost lives. The documents Jake found in that cellar weren't just proof of wealth. They were proof of crimes, and the people who had committed those crimes were still alive, still powerful, and still very dangerous. Raymond Patterson had died knowing that his secrets would die with him. He never counted on an 8-year-old boy with a toy truck changing everything. Our investigation uncovered a network of corruption that stretched from local mining operations to the highest levels of state government. Raymond Patterson had been a silent partner in operations that violated environmental regulations, exploited workers, and systematically covered up safety violations that cost lives. The documents Jake found in that cellar weren't just proof of wealth, they were proof of crimes. And the people who had committed those crimes were still alive, still powerful, and still very dangerous. The first warning came in March 2021. A man approached Jake in the parking lot of Tommy's school. Well-dressed, polite, but with a message that chilled Jake to the bone. Your uncle made some people very unhappy. You don't want to make the same mistakes he did. Jake tried to ignore it. He hired lawyers, cooperated with federal investigators, attempted to separate his inheritance from Raymond's alleged crimes. But the pressure was building. Phone calls in the middle of the night. Cars that followed him home from work. Strange men asking questions about Jake around town. Tommy started having nightmares. Jake started carrying a gun. The IRS seized his accounts in September 2021. The media descended on Millbrook like vultures. Headlines screamed about blood money and inherited guilt. The same community that had celebrated Jake's generosity now whispered about his connection to environmental crimes. But the real pressure was coming from somewhere else. Someone who had too much to lose if Jake kept talking to federal investigators. Someone who had decided that Jake Patterson knew too much to live. Our investigation revealed that Jake had been cooperating fully with federal agents. He'd turned over financial records, provided testimony about Raymond's business dealings, and even agreed to wear a wire to meetings with suspected co-conspirators. What Jake didn't understand was that his cooperation was making him more dangerous, not less. Every document he provided, every name he gave, every detail he shared was another nail in his coffin. The people Raymond Patterson had been protecting were some of the most powerful individuals in Kentucky. State politicians, business leaders, judges, people who had built their careers on money that came from illegal operations. Jake Patterson wasn't just inheriting money. He was inheriting a death sentence. By the fall of 2021, Jake knew he was in trouble. He'd hired a private security company. He'd moved Tommy to his sister's house in Louisville. He'd even written a letter to the FBI explaining that he feared for his life. But it was too late. The decision had already been made. Jake Patterson knew too much, and he had to be silenced. November 10th, 2021. Jake Patterson calls his sister Rachel, the woman who's now raising Tommy. The conversation lasts 37 minutes. Rachel later told investigators that Jake sounded defeated, scared, and like he was saying goodbye. Jake told his sister he'd been receiving death threats. He'd hired a security company, but he was afraid to let Tommy out of his sight. He was afraid to sleep. He was afraid to eat food he hadn't prepared himself. I just wanted to give Tommy a good life. Jake told his sister, I just wanted him to have what I never had, but this money, it's cursed, Rachel. It's like Raymond reached out from the grave to destroy us. November 14th, 2021. Jake drives Tommy to his sister's house in Louisville. He tells Tommy it's just for a few days, just until some business stuff gets sorted out. Tommy is 11 years old. He doesn't understand why his father is crying when he says goodbye. It's the last time Tommy Patterson sees his father alive. November 15th, 2021. 3:47. Mrs. Henderson calls 911. She heard shouting, she says. Then silence. Then she saw Jake's study light go out suddenly. When paramedics arrive, they find Jake Patterson dead at his desk. The official cause of death, heart attack. But the scene tells a different story. Papers scattered everywhere. Signs of a struggle. A window left open that Jake never opened. The coroner's report listed natural causes, but our investigation uncovered witness testimony that was never included in the official record. Mrs. Henderson saw a black sedan leaving the property at 3:30 a.m. A security camera at the nearest gas station recorded the same sedan, but the footage mysteriously disappeared before police could review it. Jake Patterson was 36 years old. He'd been wealthy for exactly 18 months, and now he was dead, taking his secrets with him, but not all of his secrets. Our investigation revealed that Jake had been keeping detailed records of everything. Phone calls, meetings, threats. He'd been preparing for this moment, documenting everything he could, in case something happened to him. The night before he died, Jake had written a letter to his son, Tommy. A letter that explained everything. A letter that named names. A letter that would have exposed the entire conspiracy. That letter was never found. It disappeared along with Jake's life. The federal investigation was quietly closed 6 months after Jake's death. The environmental crimes that Raymond Patterson had been connected to were settled with minimal fines. The powerful people who had been exposed in his documents faced no consequences. The $120 million inheritance was frozen in probate court. Legal fees consumed most of it. Tommy Patterson, the boy who had briefly known security, was left with nothing but questions and the weight of a legacy he never asked for. But our investigation revealed the final, most devastating truth. Jake Patterson was innocent. He had done nothing wrong. He had tried to do everything right. The federal investigation ultimately cleared him of any wrongdoing related to Raymond's crimes. Jake Patterson died for nothing. He died because he inherited the wrong secret from the wrong man at the wrong time. He died because in America, sometimes having too much money is just as dangerous as having too little. Tommy Patterson is now 14 years old. He lives with his aunt in Louisville. He goes to public school. He plays baseball on weekends. He's a normal kid living a normal life, except for the questions that follow him everywhere. What really happened to his father? What was in those documents? And why did a fortune that should have secured his future end up destroying it? The farmhouse in Millbrook stands empty again. The town has returned to its quiet routines. But the questions remain, and the powerful people who destroyed Jake Patterson's life are still free, still powerful, and still very dangerous. Our investigation couldn't bring Jake back, but it did uncover the truth. Jake Patterson was murdered. Not with a gun or a knife, but with pressure, threats, and systematic intimidation that literally scared him to death. The official cause of death was heart attack, but Jake Patterson died of fear. Fear for his son's safety. Fear of the powerful people who wanted him silenced. Fear of a system that protects the wealthy and powerful at the expense of the innocent. Jake Patterson thought he was inheriting the American dream. Instead, he inherited a nightmare that consumed him and destroyed his family. The saddest part of this story isn't just that Jake died. It's that his death accomplished exactly what his killers wanted. The investigation stopped, The documents disappeared. The powerful people went back to their lives, safe in the knowledge that their secrets were buried with Jake Patterson. But they made one mistake. They didn't count on people like you. People who believe that truth matters. People who refuse to let the innocent be silenced. Jake Patterson's story is over, but Tommy's story continues. Somewhere in America tonight, there's a 14-year-old boy who deserves to know the truth about what happened to his father. That's why we do this work. That's why we dig deeper when others look away. This investigation took 6 months, dozens of interviews, and access to documents that powerful people didn't want found. We couldn't have done it without viewers like you, who support independent journalism, who believe that truth matters, who understand that every story deserves to be told. If this story moved you, if you believe Tommy Patterson deserved justice, if you want to be part of preserving these stories that matter, please subscribe to our channel right now. Share this video. Leave a comment telling us about the stories in your own community that deserve investigation. And remember Tommy Patterson. Remember that somewhere tonight, a boy is growing up without his father because powerful people decided that their secrets were worth more than a human life. If you have information about Jake Patterson's death or about environmental crimes in Kentucky coal operations, please contact our investigation team. Your identity will be protected. Your story will be heard. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Not as long as people like you refuse to let the truth be buried.